All right, so we had a little excitement just now. So if we can go ahead and start with our prayer to begin. I am here only to be truly helpful.
I am here only to be helpful.
I am here to represent him who sent me. I do not have to worry about what to say or what to do.
I do not have to worry about what to say.
For he who sent me will direct me.
I
I am content to be wherever he wishes.
I am content to be wherever
he wishes.
Knowing he goes there with me.
No.
I will be healed.
I will be healed.
As I let him teach me to heal. And so it is. Amen. All right. Okay, so let's go back to where we were. So we are starting on paragraph 5, chapter 8, part 9, healing as corrected perception. Paragraph 5. Right. So would someone in Zoom like to read? That would be cool.
I'll do it unless Eleanor wants to do it.
Go ahead, Patrick.
All right, that'll be perfect.
All right. 5, healing is release from the fear of waking and the substitution of the decision to wake. The decision to wake is the reflection of the will of love, since all healing involves replacing fear with joy, or with love, sorry. The Holy Spirit cannot distinguish among degrees of error, for if he taught that one form of sickness is more serious than another, he would be teaching that one error can be more real than another. This function is to distinguish only between the false and the true, replacing the false with the true. Did you want me to keep reading?
Keep reading. No. Don't keep reading. Don't keep reading. Sorry, we're going to talk about that. I'm just setting up the other cameras.
You'll notice that it sounded like God when you read that last sentence. Yes. I see.
I'm sorry, what's the page, please?
158, Siva.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay. So what do you all think about that?
Pretty basic. The only function is to separate the false from the truth. So what it says really is that is one of our primary functions, one of the primary functions of the Holy Spirit's guidance, but it's one of our primary functions is to be diligent and aware of separating false from true. Because that way we don't get caught up in the false and have it take us down a path of where we don't want to go. But when we're aware of that distinction, and we can in the moment realize this is false and move ourselves into what is true or truth, it keeps us from being caught up in the appearance of challenges greater than what they really are. That's what I think.
Okay.
For me, it's interesting the first sentence. The healing is released from the fear of waking and the substitution of the decision to wake. So sometimes it's more comfortable to be asleep, sleeping, and even if he's insane, we're just pondering about that.
Well, last week we talked at length about being awake but being asleep at the same time, and so this is basically a continuation of that idea. So where it says healing is released from the fear, or healing is released from the fear of waking and the substitute of the decision to wake. What do you all get from that? Healing is released from the fear of waking. Why would somebody be afraid to wake up?
Because if you've been going through life thinking that everything that you're seeing and experiencing is real, when you are given another direction that this really isn't it, but there's something else, then you need to do that, you need to wake up. Even though you're told that it's something good, it's for your higher good and so forth and so on, it can still be terrifying.
Absolutely.
Because you don't know what it is.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
The uncertainty, right?
Exactly. That's what I was trying to get. Exactly. We get comfortable.
What does it say? The devil you know is better than the devil you don't know.
Is that the same?
Yeah.
Something like that. I know what you're talking about.
You know what I'm talking about.
Right. But
Like that. Mm-hmm.
when you get comfortable in living the life that you've lived for so many years, it can be terrifying to then be, I guess what you would feel like you're being thrown into a new understanding when all your life you have been used to this way of thinking. So, and that's not the nature of love to terrify us. So this is like a gentle awakening. This is allowing us to reprogram our own minds as we are ready, because Course in Miracles is repetitive. It's just repetitive, just like life is repetitive, and undoing all of the error that we have repetitively, or as far as all of the erroneous thinking that we have brought into our lives, as far as in not believing that we're good enough, and feelings of unworthiness, wanting to fit in because we're afraid to stand out and shine our light and things like that, wanting to belong, wanting to be accepted and things like that. So then we hide our light in order to be accepted. And so it's a whole different type of thought paradigm. So yeah, people essentially just want to be comfortable. They want to be happy. And so, a lot of these things that we're talking about could be construed as making them unhappy, making them uncomfortable,
Because they don't know that other stuff.
Right.
And they know the stuff that they've been experiencing, even though they've been, in a sense, in hell.
Mm-hmm.
But they know that hell. Okay?
Right. They're comfortable with it. Exactly.
And we do get comfortable with our hell. I can remember I used to be comfortable with my hell.
And even when you make a decision to change, you have to keep making that decision. You'll keep,
You know what it is?
Back to what you were doing.
I used to say like how one person, so how can you tell a person like, or invite a person to see the rainbow if they hadn't seen one, I used to say that in a personal situation, you know, so no matter how much you describe it, that you say that it's beautiful, but if they haven't had an experience, it's kind of difficult, you know, to trust.
Exactly.
It's beautiful.
And a good example of this are prisoners who've been institutionalized.
Mhm.
And so, you know, they've been in prison for years and years and years. And so when they get out, the world is a frightening place. And so they just want to get back in prison where they, you know, where they know things, where they're comfortable and stuff like that, you know, because they are terrified. So it's like we've been institutionalized,
Mhm.
you know, and that's basically what it is.
Mhm. Mhm.
And Stephen, it's interesting too, because when you talk about the concept of the prisoner,
Mhm.
they have become comfortable
Exactly.
with terror.
Exactly.
Because in order to fit in, you have to accept terror
Yep.
in prison.
Yep.
So they have become comfortable with terror.
Yep.
And when they come out, they are terrified of comfort.
Yep. They don't know what to do.
Isn't that
It's the
interesting?
same with the military.
Mm-hmm.
Going into the military and
Mhm.
serving and then coming back. So many veterans come back and they're terrified of, 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 of coming back. It's like they're on the, you know, on edge. They feel like they're still in the battle.
Yep.
And they're trained to be in the battle.
Yep.
And so coming back, it's very difficult.
Absolutely.
Well, I think that's particularly true if you were in a, say, combat environment.
Right.
I was fortunate enough to actually be in a combat environment, but I was never shot at. I was on a ship. So I didn't go through a tremendous change when I got back to civilian life. I was in an aircraft carrier 75 miles off the shore of Vietnam. So even though I was in the combat zone, I felt very comfortable on that ship.
You felt safe.
Yeah,
You were in a container.
I was in a large ship with 80 aircraft to protect me, submarines and destroyer escorts within 5 miles of where we were that are sent there specifically to protect the mothership, supposedly, which was the aircraft carrier. So you feel very safe in that kind of environment. But I deliberately put myself in that environment because I didn't want to deal with being in the Army or the Marines. Because I knew that would be a bitter pill for me to swallow.
Just be shut in.
Or possibly maimed. You know, I'm never scared to die, but I would hate to be in a situation where my leg was blown off, you know, or I got psychological problems that I got to deal with forever. I think sometimes dying is the easy way out.
Aren't we always in a combat zone? In a sense?
I think we may perceive ourselves in some type of combat zone because, you know, when things are not going our way or going as we would have them be, we perceive these things as attacks. You know, so I believe there are many times that we perceive ourselves in a combat zone when that's really not the case. So we're walking around in an illusion
What we do.
when things aren't going our way or when things aren't going as we've talked about this, as we would have them go, then yes, we can perceive these as multiple attacks coming from different directions, people, you know, things like that. So let's anybody else want to discuss paragraph 5 before we move on?
Go ahead.
Anybody?
Somebody else queue up? Okay, yeah, I wanted to mention real quick, I appreciate her, I'm horrible with names, mentioning the anchor situation in the meditation to open. That was kind of the vision that I had this week, was that of an anchor, not something anchoring me to the bottom of the ocean, but something anchoring me to the land that I love. And the thing I wanted to say about, because it you know, I mean, to heal the Son of God, therein is the purpose of the world. So the objective is clear, and the goal is clear, and the curriculum states very clearly and simply, like you said, repetitively, and it heavily reinforces the fact that that this world is a hopeless and closed system, and that I don't know the true from the false unless I have a clear goal that I've set, that I've made at the onset. What I wanted to say about the true false thing also is that what the curriculum says about failures and successes in the passing of the dream, that my greatest advances I have judged as failures.
Mm-hmm.
Some of my deepest retreats I have evaluated as successes. So when I start getting caught in the this is good, this is evil, this is desirable, this is undesirable trap, I get caught in that hopeless and closed system again. Although it is a hell of a thing to I mean, the curriculum is very clear that when a man, many men have died upon recognizing that this world is absolutely hopeless, that we are the only real hope, that to bridge the distance between, not like your elder brother does, but to bridge the distance between the world and heaven, that this world and the heaven ultimately are one. We're just waking up, I guess, as the curriculum says, waking up to that. And that, like, again, I said, I just wanted to say that I appreciate the fundamentals that the curriculum reinforces again and again and again and again, just like you were saying at the onset. You know, I mean, it really is repetitive. I learned through repetition, and especially when facing such a terrifying illusion that, you know, I needed every bit of the curriculum to go to get to that point and go beyond it.
Okay.
That's all.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank you,
That was good.
Patrick. Anybody else? Anybody else in Zoom land?
I'm noticing that he's really not, he's distinguishing that,
A little louder.
he's distinguishing that we're the oneness because of there's no degrees of error, and that and there's no sickness is more serious than another.
Mm-hmm.
And that just reinforces that oneness, that we're all one, even though we think that there are degrees of sickness. Like I think you were saying about the military, you know, that even though you were on leg blown off or someone else maybe, yeah, you know, there's really we're all one in it. We all part of that illusion. And I like to remember that.
Okay. Well, thank you, Melanie. Appreciate that. I was just muting some people, seeing dogs barking and things like that. So.
I hear the dogs.
All right. Okay. Yeah. In this world, we put levels on everything. We put levels on error. We put levels on, you know, sickness. We put levels on everything. You know, we're always comparatively looking at things, comparing ourselves with our brothers and sisters, obtaining self-worth, not from within, but what we're able to comparatively judge, with what we observe again with somebody else. And so if you don't have a foundation, because basically your own sense of worth is coming through comparative judging with other people, you don't have a sense of foundation, everything will just collapse like a deck of cards anytime you come across anything that really challenges you, because you don't have a strong foundation there to actually build upon. So the foundation to actually build upon is within you. That's what the Course in Miracles is teaching. Foundation is within you to build upon. And don't compare yourself, okay? Don't compare yourself. And as a matter of fact, in many areas in the Course in Miracles, it says, don't try to correct anybody. Don't try to correct anybody, and don't worry about what other people are per se doing. Worry about yourself. Worry about yourself. It's not on us to correct anybody. The only time you actually want to correct someone is if, again, it's as if this is what you feel like they should be doing. Based on information that you know, and whatever healing that you've experienced. Now you want to compare yourself with other people as far as in what you're seeing, what you think you're seeing as far as where they are. And so now it's as if you would have them now be healed. Whatever is going on with them is going on with them. And to simply actually see error, of course, in Miracles also says, once you start seeing error in other people, then that error is right there in you too. Right there in you. So whatever advances you have made, you go right back to square one, or whatever.
In other words, look where the other fingers are pointing.
No, it shouldn't. Hold on one second. It's trying to do that kind of stuff. I'm just like, it's annoying. This computer's really annoying me. All right, one second, you guys. I'm having problems with my computer.
We are hearing you well and all of that.
What'd you say?
Yeah, hearing everything well.
Yeah, I know something came up on my computer. It's trying to do a restart and stuff like that. It's just all kind of little things happen. That happened with it started doing that right after the lights went out. So,
Okay.
so hey, like I said, today is going to be interesting. It's going to be exciting.
Yeah.
That's what it is. Every Course in Miracles session is a new entity unto itself. So, we'll call this the Course in Miracles session in Thunder and Lightning and when the lights went out. So, all right. So, what were we talking about before I was taking care of it?
We were talking about,
Wanting to
correcting other people.
Yeah, wanting to have things as you would have them.
And that's what I was saying, whatever you were saying,
Mm-hmm.
it actually reminded me of the thing of they say, when you point at someone, look where the other fingers are pointing.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. So do we still want to talk about 5 some more, or you want to move on to 6?
Move.
Move on? All right. Claudia, would you like to read number 6?
Yes.
Okay.
The ego, which always wants to weaken the mind, tries to separate it from the body in an attempt to destroy it. Yet the ego actually believes that it is protecting it. This is because the ego believes that mind is dangerous and that to make mindless is to heal. But to make mindless is impossible, since it will mean to make nothing out of what God created. The ego despises weakness, even though it makes every effort to induce it. The ego wants only what it hates. To the ego, this is perfectly sensible. Believing in the power of attack, the ego wants attack.
Good.
The ego does believe in the power of attack.
Mm-hmm.
Well, again, when your concept is about having things as you would have them, and things don't fall in line with that, the ego, the ego will perceive all sorts of attacks, all sorts of attacks. If somebody, for example, if you say something and then somebody doesn't accept what you say, or they disagree, that's just them expressing their opinion. That's all it is. They're expressing their opinion. I mean, that's their right to express their opinion. However, many people will perceive that as an attack when someone is disagreeing with them. Why is that? Because they wanted them to agree. And all suffering, again, I'm going right back to that. All suffering lies in the desire to have things as you would have them as opposed to how they actually are.
We could just cut it short and say all suffering is a result of wanting to be right.
There you go. All suffering is the result of wanting to be right. Absolutely. 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 You hit the nail on the head. So.
That's one of those nutshells.
And also understand that arises from a false sense of self. Okay? A true sense of self is not threatened by someone that disagrees with them. A person that has a true sense of who they are, they do not perceive attack just because someone disagrees with them. All right? It is a false sense of self when your own thought, you have doubts within your own self about your own sense of self, okay? And you're constantly looking outward for evidence that your thought processes are real, that what you're thinking is right. So you're constantly looking outward for evidence for you. Okay. And so you basically, again, that's like having, that's not having a foundation. That's having a foundation of matchsticks is what it's like. Is what it's like. A foundation of matchsticks that will blow over as quickly as, there's a vibration or wind or something like that. Because all of your sense of self is derived from the external factors.
So in other words, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy?
Yeah, would you rather be right or would you rather be happy? Would you rather have peace?
I'd rather be happy. So you can be right.
No. Any other takers on paragraph 6?
Yeah, I'll comment. I like the line, the ego despises weakness, even though it makes every effort to induce it. And that thing of basically it just doesn't want me to be happy. It doesn't want me to be content or happy. So if something is going on, if I find if there's a fault, if the fault's with you, and if it's not with you, then the fault's with me. Or if something's going wrong, it's it's either going wrong in you or it's going wrong in me. It's so there's never any peace at all with it. And that also the thing that the ego doesn't want you to be desperate, because if you're desperate, then you go and seek some help. So it just wants you to be kind of mildly unhappy, so that it just keeps you right where you are.
Right. That's a good one. I like that. I agree 100%. It doesn't want to push you too far.
Right.
You know, to the point where you actually go get some help, and you won't look to it anymore. You know, but at the same time, it still wants to always keep you in that realm of discontent with your own self.
Yeah.
I'm happy. I'm happy. Yeah. Kind of somewhere in there. Yeah. And then the ego is very happy at that point. Stay right where you are. Yeah.
And again, that varying state of consciousness, that varying state of mind, it arises again from a false sense of self. From identifying with something that's other than your true and proper identification, which is spirit. Lesson number 97 in the Course in Miracles, I am spirit. And I'm sorry?
I just wanted to say, was that Eleanor that just spoke before you, or?
Yes, that was Eleanor. Yes.
Oh, that was a great point. Yeah, I mean, I hadn't really thought about that desperation thing, because, I mean, being so recently desperate, I didn't realize that the ego didn't want me there. Does that make any sense? And it you know, because I've been consistently and absolutely and consistently happy, although I have been mildly lonely. So that's something that I don't know what to do with, because the two, I don't even know if they're separate or not, but I don't quite get it. I don't know the answer.
Oh, I understand, my brother, because that's the same thing I've been experiencing. So I'm right there with you, and I'm working to move through the thick underbrush of that that loneliness. It can be compelling to discover its beginnings, and at the same time, it can be overwhelming to find your way through it. That's what I've been discovering. So I've been having the same experience as you.
To me, it's just so bizarre, because it's not so much the feeling of loneliness as the intellectually, it just seems to me to be a waste of time. Just, like, I don't understand it, because it just seems to be a waste of time. It's like, well, I understand that my body's to be treated lovingly, and that it's for communication, and I understand the concepts that are set forth for being loving, and to treat things and to treat this world lovingly, although it just, like, I can't seem to reconcile the fact that it just seems to be a waste of time.
And you know what? It might not be so much loneliness as being alone. Does that make sense?
Oh, okay. Yeah, it does kind of. Yeah.
Yeah, that, yes. Yeah.
I think I had a retired, I think he was retired Marine kind of try to explain that to me once. The being alone thing, and how that works with just stuff. He used the word stuff. You know, that's just, he said, you know, there are situations that are very lonely, although, you know, when it at least, you know, he's like, at least you got better stuff, you know. And I was like, yeah, well, that's a good point.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
it's also,
I understand.
and it's also, you know, just kind of building again off of what was just discussed about the changeability of the ego. and wanting to fluctuate back and forth and go back and forth, it has no anchor. There is no emotional anchor. Again, the reason why there's no emotional anchor is because, again, I'm just going to say it again, there's no sense of self, no sense of self in order to anchor it. No identification of spirit, of the non-changeable aspect of spirit, of the absolute realm of spirit, the peaceful conceptualization of spirit in order to anchor you. Okay, so you're not being anchored, and the ego is just the epitome of changeable. It basically epitomizes everything with this world as far as everything changing and being temporal. Your whole attitude with the ego will change. Even if everything is going right, the ego will then say something else, or maybe it'll say something else to change your attitude or something like that. Even if everything is you're just happy and everything else, there'll be something that will pop up. Okay, or your day could be going, or you're about to undertake something, and you've been entrusted with something, and then next thing you know, what makes you think you can handle it? What makes you think you can do what it is that you're trying to do, or whatever? So it is doubt, almost, personified, and it has no anchor.
Tactic of,
And it has no anchor. I'm sorry?
yeah, it's a tactic, the old tactic of divide and conquer.
Exactly.
If the ego can make you believe that it is real, then that means you are not. And it wins.
Yep.
Yeah, I was thinking about that earlier today.
For example, just going right back to what we were talking about earlier, as far as the desire of comfortability. And so you're willing to make yourself small, willing to fit within the confines of what you perceive other people expect of you. Okay. And so literally you're not happy. Literally, you are not happy, but you're safe, or so you think, because, people are accepting you. So so people are accepting you. So I guess you're okay with that aspect of it, because now you're being accepted by people and things like that. But in a way, you're miserable. And so deep down inside, because you're not expressing as you really are, you're not being your true authentic self. And maybe you don't know what your true authentic self is. Maybe you don't have, even an idea of what your true authentic self, but you know that there's something wrong. Okay? And you're just trying to fit in. But at the same time, better to do or better to do that than to step out and risk being vulnerable, and take risks of being rejected by people and things like that, as far as showing your true life. And it makes sense to some people. And so they find themselves they find themselves in these little small confines, this little small box all their lives, this little small box of comfortability.
But it's the world we live in. Because otherwise, you can be too emotional, or you can be too loud, too rude, or so many other things, bitter, crazy. And that's what people decide, based on, if you're really reacting the way that you feel like you want to react, So then eventually you just start holding back.
Mm-hmm.
And you hold back to the point where you almost lose yourself. One day you wake up and you go, who am I? Should I say something? I'm scared to say something. I don't think I should say anything, you know?
Yep.
And it's real, especially like corporate America and that kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
Every day you say, you better not say that.
Mm-hmm.
I better not step out. I better not, you know, call somebody on what they said or did.
Mm-hmm.
So it's real life.
Yeah. And so, and that's what it teaches you. And I'm sorry, Mom. Oh, go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, I used to try to shape myself to be what everybody wanted me to be.
Mhm.
And I didn't know who I was. So if you wanted me to be one way, I would be that way for you. And if you wanted me to be another way, I'd be that way for you. And you wanted me to be a way, I'd be that way for you. And you wanted me to be. And it got to the point where I had to remember how I was supposed to be with all these different people.
Mhm.
And after a while, you get confused.
Mhm.
And then they start saying, what's wrong with you? You're acting strange. You're not like you used to be, things like that.
Mhm.
And finally, I said, I'm not gonna say the word I used, but anyway, I saw Terry Cole Whitaker's book. And the title of it is What You Think of Me Is None of My Business. I bought the book, never read it, but I added to that. I got it immediately. And I said, but what I think of me is what shapes and defines my life.
Mhm.
And it all changed. It instantly changed.
Yep.
Because I no longer cared what people thought of me. I had to, what do you think of you, Sheila? How do you feel about you? And I realized that what I believe I am is what shows up out here. And so I decided I didn't care what people thought of me. I don't. I really don't. But what I think of me is shapes and defines my life. And that's the way I live my life now. I don't do that anymore.
Mhm.
Yeah. I learned the hard way. I really did. It was a crazy, chaotic time for me when I didn't know who I was because I was trying to be what everybody else wanted me to be.
Mhm.
You can kind of identify with she's fake
Yeah,
because you were trying to be what everyone wants.
exactly. And of course, then I have to remember each person's desire, each person's Christmas list.
Right.
Too much energy.
It's too much, yeah.
Well, here's the thing though. I get I'm not invalidating your experience, your universal experience. It's just that it's not the comfort or the lack thereof that concerns me, and I'm not associating being alone with or loneliness and being alone with wanting to fit in. It's not a question of comfort. It's a question of convenience. I'm seeking solitude, just not the kind of solitude that's accompanied with loneliness. And the convenience thing is that the curriculum states over and over and over and over again that I am neither to lead nor follow. That now that the insanity has been identified, that whoever is saner at the time will step forward and correct the previous mistake. And in terms of knowing my true identity, I'm learning my brother as I go. I can't just stop it and try to concretize God. I have to continue to step forward with my brother, and it's just the amount of virtue that seems to be being asked of me is something I'm not accustomed to. And also, I wanted to throw in there too that I think was that Alan Watts had said or quoted someone once saying, "Whenever men seek solitude, other men will seek them out to become part of their desperate band of odd fellows." And I'm not into that. What I'm concerned about is never being in a position to where virtue becomes inconvenient.
Okay. Why do you feel virtue would be an inconvenience?
Because, because the curriculum states that I won't go on to the next period without the company of mighty companions. So I'm not waiting for that. It's just that in the process of this happening, it seems like the mighty companions and I are avoiding each other just as much as we're seeking each other out. It's a paradox or an axiom of some sort.
Well, it just sounds to me, brother, like you're on a journey, just like all of us. And, eventually everything will be revealed to you in time.
Right on.
All right. So listen, we are going to take a 7-minute break, and there's some water up there, and we'll get the fruit and stuff like that. We're going to take a 7-minute break. You need to go use the restroom, something like that. We'll be back in about 7 or 8 minutes.
All right.
Got it.
Okay.
Some water here, you guys.
Good down, good. I added something to that. It's very true. When the good die, if you're an SOB, the Lord don't want you either. He said, stay down there all day. Don't come up here to heaven.
Oh, good. I'm glad you picked up some plates, man. Good job. Please.
I picked up the plates.
Oh, you picked up the plates?
It wasn't me.
Thank you so much, John. So appreciate you. Good job.
And I got that other stuff too, but see, you already got
Oh,
some.
you got that? See it? We're right here. Okay, you guys, come up and stuff. I got it open. We got everything that we're gonna have. That's the whole thing. We got grapes, we got watermelon, we got fresh watermelon, we got fresh cantaloupe. And I got more grapes here in case we don't have enough grapes. So I got more cantaloupe and watermelon too, but I don't feel like cutting it right now.
Huh?
I like the way that's up there like that. It actually opens out, it's right on.
Well, this opens out here. That's a little recreation room up there. Or we could actually use it as an extra bedroom because it has a closet, walk-in closet too. Yeah. This was the second house that Stephen and I looked at when we were shopping for a house.
You only took two?
All it took.
Wow.
All it took was 2 houses.
Yeah, wow.
And I was amazed because the realtor really listened to me. I met with him about a month prior to that, and I told him what I was looking for and what I could afford. And he did his research, came back, he said, I got 6 houses for you to look at. And this was number 2 on the list. And he said, huh?
How long have you been here?
Moved in here in May of 2017, it was 3 months before he and Harvey hit. The house we were renting, with 2 feet of water in it.
In Bear Creek? Number Bear Creek?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
You already lived here?
Yeah, we got it
moved
just in time.
3 months early.
It's a miracle.
Yeah.
Yeah, we got it.
You sure did.
Now you want some?
So did you look at all 6?
You got some
or you
forks?
stopped at 2? Did you look at all 6 or did you stop at 2?
No, we just stopped there. This was the second house.
That works out.
You know, I bought several houses in my lifetime. It didn't take
So who's that man up there?
5 or 6 months sometimes.
Great.
Okay? But this was
So
the
who's?
second house we looked at on the first day.
Dad?
Realtor, yeah, of course. Well, we listened to him. Yeah, I said, look,
He looks very
it's a big
distinguished.
house. Stephen and
Same as
I,
Captain Henry Halston.
we,
He was a character.
Yeah.
Did you know?
we sometimes get on each other's nerves.
There's some books about them, so get a book out.
Separate. He's been there. Yeah, he looks very distinguished. That's your great grandfather?
on my dad's side of the family, that's my great grandfather. He was a free black man in South Carolina.
And he's invisible.
And
Oh, my goodness.
his father was a white plantation owner that decided to hook up with his slave woman,
Okay.
and they had 5 children. I think he was the oldest of 5. He was born in 1855,
Uh-huh.
and I think emancipation was 10 years later, 1865. So he was never a slave, but he became.
So where is he in here?
I didn't have to get looking at the index,
Okay,
but
it's right here.
he was quite a character. He was a riverboat captain first. He hauled cargo on the intercoastal waterway between Florida and
Uh-huh.
Virginia. And the boat sank, and I don't think he had adequate insurance. So then he decided to become an undertaker. He went to mortuary science school. That was sometime in the 1890s that he became an undertaker. In those days, black people couldn't go to a white undertaker to get buried.
All right.
So they had to,
There's even in spring, two separate cemeteries. There's a
really?
black cemetery.
Oh, yeah, same thing in New Orleans.
You know,
Black
I saw a picture one time that showed.
That's the proof.
That is great. I did some work on some cemeteries and did some interviewing with some old timers, and they told me where it was.
Well, it
'Cause
wasn't just.
It's not marked. It's not marked. Somebody needs to go out there.
I saw a picture one time of a maternity ward. Then over here was a cemetery. And it said, they get along in both of these situations, either the maternity ward or the cemetery. Now all we got to do is figure out how to make them get along in between.
Oh, wow.
Very thoughtful. There you go. Hey.
You know, all the places at one time had, 2 types of cemeteries. One white, one black.
Matter of fact, I'm gonna show you a picture here. My great grandfather, I have a picture of his.
I used to live in South Carolina also, in Richmond area,
Okay,
right on the corner where the black undertaker was. The building's still there.
this building, that's how it looks today, but my grandfather,
The black cemeteries.
this
and
building
stuff
was
still
built in
all over New
1902.
Orleans, too.
Charleston,
Still around
South
there.
Carolina. And the chapel was on the first floor. They embalmed the people on the second floor. And there were 2 apartments up here on the top floor. When my parents got married, they lived in this 3rd floor walk-up above the embalming studio. Can you imagine that?
No, I can't. The smell is just like.
Yeah. So,
When he said, "Will you?" I'd be like, "No, no, thank you.
I can tell you a joke.
No, thank you."
My dad was a musician.
Guys, help yourself
He
to.
bought a piano
Help
set.
yourself to some more fruit. Much
So-
as you want. I got 2
Two
minutes. I
guys
got 2
show
minutes
up,
more.
they gotta get this piano up to the 3rd floor walk-up. There was no elevator. They had
Come
like
on.
50 from
You
one
wanted
flight
more
of
food.
stairs.
Just
They
help yourself.
struggled getting this heavy
Okay.
piano up there to the
I had
top
eaten,
floor.
so.
Go.
So my dad mentioned to the guy that he was
I had to
paying
have,
for it
that was my dessert.
on credit, you know? And the guy said, well, look here, you can't make a payment. Let me know, I'll make it for you. Because if you didn't make a payment, you want to come back and get that piano. He said, all right, buddy, you can't make the payment, I'll make it for you.
All right, we gotta get started.
Okay.
All right. Okay. So do we have anything else we wanted to discuss on paragraph 6?
Online, Mike.
I'm go.
All right.
Well, I
He's
have
sitting
one
there
thing.
with his fan, that's why he's so cold.
I have one thing.
He's sitting next to Stephen. You might
Yeah, one more
want to
thing.
go.
Yeah.
Mom, Dad, we got one more thing.
The ego believes that the mind is dangerous. So, mind is not dangerous.
Mind is really neutral. It's what you perceive it in the mind. The ego believes that if you think, you're going to come to the realization that it's not good for you, the ego. That, you know, you might find that it's wrong, or you might determine that you don't want anything to do with it. That's why the ego thinks the mind is dangerous, because you might actually think about the fact of you and this ego. Yeah.
And also, Melanie, that comes from misidentification. Okay, misidentification. So if you are identifying, you know, with something other than spirit, which, you know, spirit can't be harmed anyway, you know, because there is no danger to spirit. And if you're identifying with spirit, then you will perceive it as such. But if you're not identifying with spirit and you're misidentifying, if you're identifying with something else, then you will probably perceive danger. See, everything that we perceive comes from the sense that we have of ourselves. You know, comes from our perception of ourselves, the thoughts we hold of ourselves as far as what am I, you know, and things like that. If you believe that you're the person that you're the body that gets up and brushes your teeth, and that's you, and that is you. Well, you know, the body, you know, is fragile and perishable and stuff like that. So yes, it's easy to perceive danger, you know, from that type of standpoint. So not only is the mind possibly perceived as dangerous, but there's many other dangers. Bless you.
I thought we were talking about the ego perceives the mind as dangerous.
Well, we are the ego. You know, the ego is the personality. The ego is Stephen Fleming. The ego is Sheila Guttrell. The ego is Melanie. The ego is Robert Fleming. It is the ego. You know, personality. It can't, you know, reference.
But I am not just my personality.
No, you are not.
Okay, so that's never mind, because there's a distinguishing there. Okay, because if I believe I'm my personality, that's one thing.
Mm-hmm.
But if I believe fully that I am spirit, I'm born of spirit,
Mm-hmm.
I live as spirit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, the spirit moves in and through me, I move in and through spirit, then that's not.
I believe that's what I said. I believe that we're saying the same thing. Maybe, you know, I'm sorry if that's not, but I was saying the same thing as far as I am spirit. And so
that wasn't the point I was, never mind, it's not important.
okay.
It's really not.
We can talk about it an hour later. But
I was going back to what was written in the thing, that's all.
okay. All right. Anybody else want to discuss paragraph 6? Anybody? No? Okay. All right. Let's move on to paragraph 7. Dad, you want to read that?
No problem. The Bible enjoins you to be perfect, to heal all errors, to take no thought of the body as separate, and to accomplish all things in my name. This is not my name alone, for ours is a shared identification. The name of God's Son is one, and you are enjoined to do the works of love because we share this oneness. Our minds are whole because they are one. If you are sick, you are withdrawing from me. Yet you cannot withdraw from me alone. You can only withdraw from yourself and me.
Okay.
oneness.
Mhm.
May I?
Absolutely.
All right. Let me just turn my light on here again real quick. The, I just went to the, I don't know, they did my beard the other day, and we were talking about, I used to do hair, and so it's like, it's weird to kind of go to a hairstylist when I used to do hair, and to only get my beard done to boot. But, we were talking about, she's like, well, what do you want your beard to look? I'm like, I'd like it to look perfect, within reason. And but from the standpoint of, we're not perfect or we wouldn't be here, although we are fully capable of teaching and learning perfection. And again, it goes with the stepping forward to correct previous errors. When I try to correct a previous error by not stepping forward, then I get into that tolerance of wandering mode, I guess, that the curriculum speaks of. The thing that I wanted to say is that you had mentioned the self that you had mentioned that danger and stuff like that. Although the curriculum kind of poetically justifies the detection of threat is vastly beyond the perception of danger. The self that needs protection is not real, which kind of places us in a position of the protector. And one of the reasons why I mentioned the virtue thing is that, the thing that grabbed me early on in the course is where it mentions the fourfold thing about the power of heaven, the love of God, the tears of Christ, and the joy of his eternal spirit are marshaled to defend you from your own attack. For you attack them, being part of them, and they must save you, for they love themselves. That's why the holy instant is so important in the defense of the truth. Because it's not about danger, it's about detecting a threat. Anytime I detect a threat, whoever's saner will step forward at the time. Although one of the reasons why I was bringing up my personal experience recently is it's almost like a high stakes game. The higher the stakes, the less stakes there are, and the more difficult it is to fall into the self-deception trap. The truth itself needs no defense, but I need defense against acceptance of the gift of death, because what I had done was I had accepted an idea that was so dangerous to truth that I was actually threatening truth with destruction. It's almost like that, what it says, if I could find Jesus today, I would most likely crucify him. And that's a hard, jagged pill to swallow.
Okay. Crucify.
Crucified.
Yeah. Yeah. Because he wouldn't recognize. I think is what he's saying. Thank you, Patrick.
Yeah, that's been my recent experience.
Again, identification is the key here. You see, we experientially become what it is that we identify with. It doesn't have to be real. It does not have to be real. We can identify with the changeable. We certainly can. Of course, in Miracle says the changeable isn't real. That's what it says.
Say that again.
We essentially become beingness is becoming that which you hold to be true. So when we identify, when I say identify, when you believe that you are something, you become that something. You experience that something. It doesn't mean that you somehow lose your divinity. In actuality, it doesn't mean that you lose spirit. It means that you take on the condition of being that which you believe that you are, which takes you which in your mind takes you away from spirit, and then you begin to experience fear and lack and doubt and things like that. It's just an illusion, but you get to experience that illusion because this is what you believe you identified yourself with. That's what you identify yourself with. So if you believe that you are the body, and I'm just using the body as an example, if you believe that that is you, with no room for there being a deeper you, a deeper meaning to you, a deeper you that transcends that body. When that body gets old and sick and things like that, if you believe that that is really you, then what's going to happen to you when the body's gone? What's going to happen to you when the body dies? But if you have an understanding that you are using that body, you are using that body in order to participate in a story that's being written in human history, okay? And you chose the to be placed in the story of this body. For example, like, ethnicity, as far as being, being born into the story of being a Black man, and for as far as for you, that middle class and things like that, and all of the elements of the story that you chose to come in as far as when you came here. Same thing with you. You chose to come into that story, okay? But the true essence of who you are, and let's not take that for granted, is that you are a spiritual being. And when we fail to recognize that, when we fail to realize that, when we get so caught up in all of this that we lose sight of that as our anchor, remember we're talking about anchors, as our anchor, something to anchor us to the truth. When things start changing and the wind starts blowing and howling and things like that, what kind of foundation do you have to support you during the howling winds and things like that? When the rain starts beating down and stuff like that, what kind of foundation do you have now to help support you? Is what you are that changeable thing? Or is there something truer, deeper, more meaningful to you that can withstand all of that? And in your understanding of that and your belief of that, because that is your understanding of that, then you will be able to withstand all of that, because again, whatever you believe, you become. You become. And you experience overcoming because you know that, listen, I'm spirit. And I'm going through this, I'm going through that, but at the same time, I'm not afraid. So that's all I'm saying. That's all I'm talking about as far as identification. What do you identify with? What do you really think you are? Because what you really think you are, what you truly believe, it's not on me to tell you what you are. What you really think you are, that's what you are. Because you are going to experience exactly what you are. It's not going to be what I think you are. It's going to be what you think you are. And your experience is going to reflect exactly what you believe that you are. No matter what I may see, no matter what I say, you're going to believe what you want to believe. And vice versa. No matter what you say, I'm still going to believe what I want. And I'm going to have an experience of believing, an experience in accordance to what I believe. Look like you want to say something over there, Ma. Come on. Come on.
I was thinking something. I said, well, I know I'm not this because who I really am is so much cuter.
You're funny, man. I love how you do that.
I think she should read number 8.
You know who I truly, if you all could see who I truly am, it is so much cheaper than that.
That's right, ma. That's right. It's so much cuter. There you go. Zoomers, y'all kind of quiet, except for Patrick. Where's Claudia? Where's Crystal? Where's Ed? You know, Ed, what you doing, man?
Well, you know, now that you brought it up, you know, the recognition is really a large part of it, because there are forces out there that would not allow us our recognition, and we accept it. You know, one of the things that the Bible said is that to build your church upon the rock. And, you know, Jesus' following was small, so a small number of people. And it wasn't a big hoopla. He was just preaching the truth. But look at what happens when you look at the Vatican and all these huge churches. Now, it tells you, well, it gives the message that we've bought into, that the people in these institutions are holier than we are, okay. Which is not the original message. And this is one of the things that we've not yet overcome, is to not see that as symbolic of the people who have created these things, who made these things, that make them better than everybody else, to make them holier than we are. But that's the illusion, to present one as having power and one as not having power. And it has maintained that for generations and generations and generations, until we can recognize that these synagogues, the Vatican, and all this pomp and circumstances is not what religion or our spiritual recognition is about, because it's showing that one has more than the other, and that is the image that divides us.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You're referring to going back to comparative types of thinking and stuff like that, Ed?
Well, yeah, this is our trap.
Yeah, I agree. I agree. You know, and it happens all of the time. It could be considered an abuse of the faculty of judgment, because I don't think that's not the use in which it was intended, as far as, you know, judging something, because there is something called judging truly, and discernment and things like that. And the way we've actually used it is a way to elevate ourselves by creating comparative analysis that puts our side, or the side that we align with or associate with, in the right. You know, and there can only be one right. You know, so in our, you know, thought process, there can only be one right. So we're the right. So if we're the right, that means they're wrong.
May I give a quick example? Go ahead, Ed.
Well, the line in the sense is that the name of God's Son is one, and you are enjoined to do the works of love because we share this oneness. And what we're talking about is the illusion that shows us something else. How can we truly embrace this when you have a religious institution that accumulates wealth and not share it with others?
the thing that but that I like the way that Jesus says that his crucifixion is an extreme example. It's not to be used as a foundation, as an extreme example for church on. But what I wanted to say is that that the stakes have been raised above those things. It's beyond extreme. It's almost like when it says that some certain things are beyond question or unequivocal. Power that can't be power that doesn't empower is not really power at all. It's just an illusion. So eventually, the inevitable will dawn on the truth dawns on itself, that it doesn't matter how powerful an entity becomes, that really this is about the resurrection and the ascension, the curriculum. It's very practical. And the reason why I brought all those points up is because, like Ken Wapnick used to say in the early days of the curriculum, that people weren't, the Course in Miracles students were getting together and they weren't really getting it. They weren't getting how practical it is. Like if I've been dealing a lot recently with people that are infirm or on their deathbeds and things like that. And the last thing I want to do is point them to lesson 136. I don't want, if somebody's sick and needs to go to the hospital, I don't want to tell them to read lesson 136 because that's impractical. They're not in a position to receive it. I need to take them to the hospital. Even as a Course in Miracles student, the holy instant for lesson 136 is not there. I need to take them to the hospital, and perhaps a chance will happen where we could enjoy the fruits of lesson 136 together. But that's the thing. There's nothing to choose between. There is no right and wrong. There's the ascension and there's the resurrection.
Well, I think as you continue to gain a greater sense of yourself, that aspects of error in other people, as far as people getting sick and things like that, won't faze you. I mean, because, there's still a highest good for these people. Doesn't even matter. Doesn't matter as far as whatever circumstances got your brother or sister to where they are. That's a part of their journey. And it's not for us to say anything, because there's a myriad of reasons why they could be sick. Erroneous thinking is just one of them. It could also be something that they chose to do to help elevate their learning, because when you are going through something, when you're going or you, like, for example, you can't see or something like that, you don't have your vision or whatever, nature always compensates with other things. You experience exponential growth elsewhere. And so perhaps these souls may have done that. Maybe it wasn't erroneous thinking whatsoever. What if they were born blind? So it's not on me to say that anything, because honestly, I know nothing. I believe you said that last weekend. You were talking about the fact that we know nothing. We absolutely know nothing. We're not qualified to take a look at any type of circumstance and say anything as far as whether this has anything to do with a perceptually based illness or anything. Because we have enough to deal with our own selves. We have enough to deal with our own healing and our own therapy and stuff like that. And basically it's just for us to support our brother and sister, basically. To support them in love. But it starts with a sense of self. Because if you don't have a sense of self, you can't see that. If you don't have a true, unique sense of self in who you are and are grounded in that sense of self, where it really doesn't matter what's going on with other people, okay? Then yes, you're going to want to compare, you're going to want to figure out, you're going to want to analyze other people's illnesses, you're going to want to do all kinds of things and worry about every other person but yourself. So it all starts with a sense of self. It all starts with being grounded in a sense of self. And one way to do that is begin to meditate. and begin to spend time with yourself and connect with yourself in the silence, in the solitude, like you were talking about earlier, in the solitude, in the silence. Spend that time in the silence, getting to know yourself, getting to know your real self. When I say yourself, I'm not talking about the personality. You can explore the personality if you want to. I'm talking about get to know spirit, because as you get grounded in spirit and getting to know your real absolute self, your personality will get grounded. It will begin to integrate with spirit, which is grounded. Okay? And then you won't be worried about what is going on. And, you know, not from a standpoint of apathy, not getting worried about, but from a standpoint of understanding that you really don't even know anything. You don't know what this person signed up for. You don't know what's going on. And so therefore, just offer them love. That's all, just love. What can I do for you? You know what I'm saying? How can I be there for you? It doesn't matter how you got where you are, you know? And when you also see yourself as a spiritual being, and you will begin to see them as a spiritual being also. And so with that common thread of both of you all being spiritual beings, you will have the commonality which will lay the groundwork for compassion. And through compassion is how God expresses itself. Compassion is how we bring miracles. Compassion is how we transform. So it all starts really with a sense of self, a deep-rooted sense of self, and learning about yourself. And as you get to learn about yourself and the true nature of yourself, then you will recognize your brother. You will recognize them. Because as you see it in yourself, you will recognize it in your brother.
The good thing to remember is that we're not the victims of random acts of good luck or bad luck, or being in the right place at the right time or the wrong place at the wrong time. Our lives are purposeful and have meaning.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
We are in this to learn, to grow, to evolve. And sometimes we do it over and over until we get it right, and sometimes we might do it pretty quickly. But our lives are purposeful, and they have meaning.
Absolutely.
And we're spiritual beings having a spiritual experience on a human plane in a body. And that is so, if we could remember, just remember that, it would carry us much more easily and effortlessly through the things that we experience in our lives. We have chosen this journey in order to evolve to whatever degree of awareness of who we truly are in this particular lifetime.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And Patrick, I want to thank you for sharing, brother. I appreciate that. I appreciate that. So thank you.
Yeah, I wasn't very articulate. I was just trying to, I guess, emphasize the like it says in 8 there, that this is a practical course that means exactly what it says. Like the self that needs protection is not real.
Absolutely.
Yeah, absolutely.
I'm agreeing with you, Patrick.
We're right there with you.
I'm not in any disagreement with you.
Yeah,
I'm with you, brother.
I was adding to what you, yeah.
So, are we all ready to move on, or we want to talk about it some more?
You know, one of the things I can say to everybody who's listening, you all know that I'm considered legally blind. Well, it's interesting because for some reason I was not brought down by the loss of my eyesight. And what has happened is that my insight has gone to another level.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So I signed up for this.
Mm-hmm.
There's something that I am meant to see, but not through these.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And that's very powerful, man. Like, you know, I agree with you. I wasn't gonna say anything like that, but I agree with you. You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
My insights have gone through the roof.
Yeah.
It was my mind. Yeah. But I'm okay with this.
All right.
Yeah.
So which one are we on now? We're on
Paragraph
8. All right. All right. We're looking good. Maybe we can get done tonight. Okay. All right. Melanie, would you like to read? All right.
You've surely begun to realize that this is a very practical course and one that means exactly what it says. I would not ask you to do things you cannot do, and it is impossible that I could do things you cannot do. Given this, and given this quite literally, nothing can prevent you from doing exactly what I ask, and everything argues for your doing it. I give you no limits, because God lays none upon you. When you limit yourself, we are not of one mind, and that is sickness. Yet sickness is not of the body, but of the mind. All forms of sickness are signs that the mind is split and does not accept a unified purpose.
Mm-hmm. A unified purpose. Okay. So every single one of us has a purpose that is relationally balanced with the whole. Okay. So every single one of us has a purpose that complements the other 7.6 billion other purposes in this world.
Our lives are purposeful and have meaning.
Which means when one is not being authentic, being their true self, they impair the relationship of the entire planet. Not intentionally, but they do. Because they are not bringing that healing, because see, there is something that is within them that helps heal the whole. When they are being their true self, they are healing and right where they need to be. When they are trying to be someone else, we don't need a someone else. We need them. That is what this world needs. This world needs them, not someone else. We got someone else. We got that person. That person is already doing it. Do you? So
I don't think it's a matter of. I don't think it's a matter of wanting to be something else. It's a matter of, like it says here, of being sick. That it's the lack of recognition of who we are promotes the sickness that we believe is real that we attribute to the body. That takes us out of the oneness of and the joined minds. Once we, I'll just say infection. Once we have this infection that causes us to be sick, we can no longer be a part of the whole because we're seeking healing outside of ourselves. And the only way healing can happen is if minds are joined.
that's correct.
Infection is the perfect word.
Healing can happen as if minds are joined. But the only way to actually join minds is to be authentic. You know, because if you're not being authentic, you are sectioning yourself off from other minds. So how can we have healing if we are not being our real selves?
Well, you can't be your real selves if you believe in sickness.
That's right.
So it's a matter of, what are you going to choose to believe? You're going to choose to believe who you really are, or on the sickness that has basically come upon the world and tells you that you have all these various illnesses. And I mean, you've met these people. They'll read a medical book and swear that they have this illness. They are afflicted with something. Okay, and that's a belief in the ill. That's the faith in the illness rather than in who they are. So it's the illness that robs us of our identity.
Well, I think it's what we actually identify. I don't think that somebody being, well, this is just my opinion anyway, but I'm just saying my opinion is that it all starts with the fundamental core belief system as far as what you really believe. That's where it kind of starts. But I think there's a myriad of different things as far as, you know, why somebody may or may not be sick. You know, again, like it could be just like I said, a choice that you made before you actually came into the store. You know, you don't know, we don't know why somebody's really sick. But yeah, if you believe in anything, that you will become what you believe in. Absolutely. You know, as far as in cleaning or healing the perception of error, how can you, clean up the perception of error if you don't even know who you are, if you don't even know what you are? And if you really believe that you're the body, and you believe that that is your, that is your absolute nature, how can
There won't be a difference.
I'm just saying, how can you clear up any or clear up any error within yourself? Because it's not about anybody else, it's about yourself. How can you clear up any error about it when you misidentify yourself with being that which you're not?
Well, that's the choice. I mean, how can you identify with who you really are if you believe in sickness? And if you believe in sickness, that's the root of the error.
I think cause and effect are the same. They're really the same. They're just the same. That's just the bottom line. They're just the same.
The cause is the effect.
That's what I'm saying. Cause and effect are the same. So, right. So I'm saying Ed is talking about like the effect of sickness, because sickness is not a cause. Okay. But he's talking about
it's an effect.
Right. He's talking about the effect of sickness.
Effect
So he's talking about
the cause.
Right.
And the cause starts where?
In the mind.
Exactly.
Right.
So
Yeah. But it's what the mind believes about itself. Yeah. So, I mean, the bottom line, I think we're saying the same thing. We're just saying it from different aspects because, again, Ed, cause and effect are the same, brother. They are. They just are.
And there's no
effect.
So
yeah.
That's there's only one of us. In your eyes, it's free.
So it really doesn't matter where, as far, if you have a cyclical, a circular type situation of error going on, bottom line is cause and effect is still the same. They're still one. Doesn't matter.
It may be, but if we're talking about recognition, then it makes it different for different people. And therein lies the problem, because the beliefs are then splintered off from and obscures our identity, because our faith is not in who we are. Our faith becomes in the things that we were taught to believe.
Yeah. And I believe, and I agree with you on there. But I also believe that it's still up to every individual because we signed up for our journeys. So I agree with you. We signed up for our journeys, and your journey is your journey. My journey is my journey. Claudia's journey is her journey. And so, that's just our journeys, so.
Well, yeah, but here's the deal, though. I think that because of all these different beliefs, how religion has taught us, if you actually have faith, you try to force this on to other people. And that has been the cause of a lot of the splintering off and the rejection of religion by a lot of people that make the things that we're talking about out of reach for them. But I think the good news is that how we begin to heal that is what we're doing in small groups where people of like minds begin to come together and share these ideas, and it begins to grow. And that's what when you look at where we started at over a year ago and the number of people involved with our group now says that this is true.
Yeah, it's wonderful therapy. We're definitely of like mind on that. I do agree with you on that. I do agree with you on that.
I like the way the curriculum says that there's a proper use of denial. You know, that I think it was within the first years, again, to reference the first years of the curriculum, that one of the students had asked Jesus, well, how did the separation occur? And the answer that Jesus gave is, what difference does it make when you're still doing the same thing now? That was his answer to, if I accept the causeless cause, I'm going, nowhere. I'm not stepping anywhere. And it's a hell of a thing, like you said, a cause is made by its effect. Although to accept a causeless cause is quite a thing.
And like I said, you just have an endless cycle, a continual cycle. It's just it's going to be a cycle that continues to repeat itself until some corrective measures are actually taken by the person. I'm not sure, if a belief in sickness is a simultaneous non-belief in spirit, but it could be. It could be. I'm not sure if that. I have to think about that. I have to chew on that a little bit. It could be a simultaneous type thing. So I just have to chew on that for a little bit.
Well, I think it may be a fact that sickness is taught first.
I believe that sickness is definitely taught first, because one of the first things we learn is that we're going to die. And we learn about sickness and death. That's one of the first two things that we learn about here before we even learn about spirit.
That is basically a distorted vision.
Mm-hmm.
And that's a huge cornerstone of any religion, or a lot of, I'd say a majority of spiritual groups believe that heaven is reached through death, and the curriculum says it's very clearly and practically that heaven is reached by the truth. I don't have to die to go to heaven. That's a huge belief that a vast amount of people accept, and they're not willing. They are not willing to let that go, because it's the foundation of everything, the belief in death. I mean, and it's so clear. How much clearer could Jesus have made it? I conquered sin and death. Not only that, it's absurd. He really where is your sting? You don't, it means nothing. It's nothing. It's like money. It means nothing. But to withhold payment where it's due, that's something that I can conceive of.
Anybody else have any comments?
It's a challenge for people to realize that we have our heaven and our hell right here. We don't have to die to go to heaven or to hell. We have it right here. Right here. I mean, I can look back on my life. I've been in hell. I've been in heaven. I've been in hell. I've been in... I have,
So what do y'all think?
Anybody else had any hell in your life? You've had some heaven too, right? Yeah. That's what I said. We have.
Okay.
Question?
When it talks about sickness.
Well, that's called insanity, illusions, and lies. Hey, you know, that's a great title for a book.
There's somebody sharing.
Somebody sharing it.
Oh,
So
didn't hear.
I'm sorry. I was trying to clarify, when it speaks about sickness, is it talking about illness with the body, or is it mental illness, or
either one.
what is it really saying
Well,
when it talks about
the cause is the mind.
sickness?
Yeah.
Sickness is, it starts in the mind, and then it's
Yeah,
manifested in the body. It's talking initially in the mind. It's talking in the mind.
All illness is mental illness. All illness is mental illness.
Okay, that's kind of like I said, I need to clarify that. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
It just
And I wasn't
manifests
sure
in the
if it was-
physical. Yeah.
Okay.
So again, we're talking about something that originates in the mind, you know, which then is later
But you
manifested.
still could feel it in the body, though, right?
Well, yeah,
Is that still what it's talking about, or no, not really?
Because we are so powerful. We are co-creators, even if we miscreate. We still have the power to create. So if we create it in the mind, it is going to be reflected out here as well.
yeah, you can create that discordant energy. You create that discordant energy in the mind.
Right.
I mean, you still, you know, are an energy field, and it will manifest into the body. You know, that discordant energy. You know, whatever it is. You know.
And we must honor the miscreations of others lovingly the same way that God has honored our miscreations lovingly.
Exactly. And why is that? Because all paths still lead to God anyway.
Yeah.
It really doesn't matter. I mean, I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't matter. None of that even matters. It doesn't even matter why somebody's sick or what they're misperceiving or what, it doesn't matter. Again, the only thing to worry about is yourself. That's it. The only thing for me to really worry about is Stephen. Okay? Is my integration with my divine nature. And not to occupy my mind with what Patrick's doing or what Ed's doing or what he's thinking or anything like that. Whatever y'all think is what y'all think. Whatever you perceive is what you perceive. You know? And that's what you have to live with. You know? That's it. Whatever I think is what I think, and I have to live with that. That's it. And you can't make people think, you know, you can't control what people think. You can't make people agree or change their erroneous perceptions or whatever. You can't do any of that stuff. And any desire to do that is suffering anyway.
You can only demonstrate. Isn't that
That's
what Jesus did?
all you can do is demonstrate.
Jesus demonstrated. And so ours is to demonstrate.
That's it.
Not to criticize,
That's
condemn,
it.
or judge,
That's
but to
it.
demonstrate.
Show me.
Yeah.
Show me. You know?
Exactly.
That's it. Don't tell me anything. Show me.
If
Exactly.
it's not free will, it's not free.
Yeah. You know? Well, it looks like we're not gonna be able to get 9, so we got one more
This
paragraph.
is really good.
Well,
Yeah.
why don't we just extend the time and finish this last paragraph?
Because that takes. Oh, people might want to go there. You know. How y'all feel about that? No. Ready to go home? We've been here for 2 hours. We've been here for 2 hours. You know? We've been here for 2 hours.
Okay, all right.
So we'll just take care of this. We'll take care of this next Thursday. Don't worry about it. You know, got plenty more Course in Miracles.
This is good. I missed you guys. Thank you. This was
We
wonderful.
missed you too. All right. So we're gonna go ahead and pray.
To my family. I miss my family.
We are grateful for another evening of sharing ideas, sharing insights, sharing energy. We are truly grateful for these moments of therapy and healing. understanding. Seeing things from perspectives, from different or various perspectives, which aid us in seeing things in a whole new light if we are open to it. And so we feel that gratitude in the name and after the nature of the indwelling Christ. And so it is. Amen. All right. All right, you guys.
Have a great evening.
You
All right.
too. Thank you.
All right, Zeba, Krista.
Yeah.
All right, Claudia. Zoom land was a little quiet this time, but you know, feel free to speak anytime. Whatever y'all, you know, just talk, you know.
Patrick and Ed wait for us.
Right. So, all right, you guys. I'll see you next week.
Thank you all. Bye.
Later.
All right.
Good to see you, sister.